Have you ever felt like your partner's love was actually a loaded gun pointed at your own peace of mind? Because that's exactly where I found myself with Liam, a man who didn't just want my heart, but wanted to own every single thought inside my head. Everyone saw a perfect couple, a man who adored a girl who was lucky to have him, and me. But they didn't see the invisible threads of guilt and fear he was weaving around my soul every time I said no. This isn't a story about a breakup. It's a post-mortem of how emotional blackmail transforms the person you love into the person who destroys you. And today, I'm unmasking exactly how he turned my love into his ultimate leverage. It started so subtly that I actually mistook his control for an overwhelming amount of devotion, a classic trap where the predator dresses up as the protector before the first drop of blood is even shed. Liam was charming, the kind of man who would remember your favorite flower and the exact way you liked your coffee. But looking back now, I realize he wasn't just learning my preferences, he was mapping out my vulnerabilities to use them against me later. Every time I wanted to go out with my friends or spend a Sunday with my family, he would develop this sudden, inexplicable bout of anxiety or a bad day at work that only my presence could fix. He would look at me with those puppy dog eyes and say that I was the only thing keeping him sane, which felt like a compliment at the time, but was actually the first brick in the wall of my prison. I began to cancel plans not because I wanted to stay, but because the thought of him being alone and sad made me feel like a monster, and that is exactly how emotional blackmail begins, by making you responsible for someone else's internal weather. He was testing my boundaries with these small, seemingly innocent requests, and every time I complied out of a sense of duty, I taught him that my needs were secondary to his whims. It's a slow erosion of the self, where you stop being an individual and become an emotional crutch for someone too lazy to walk on their own 2 feet. The first warning sign was a fleeting moment of pure discomfort I felt when he asked me to delete a male colleague's number, but I dismissed it as me just being overly sensitive or unsupportive. By the time the mask finally slipped, I was already so deep in the illusion of our perfect life that I didn't even recognize the girl looking back at me in the mirror. If this is hitting close to home, hit that like button and subscribe so we can keep unmasking these toxic patterns together. Once the foundation of my compliance was laid, the tactics shifted from sweet requests to calculated demands wrapped in the poisonous paper of guilt. Liam became a master of the silent treatment, a cold, suffocating vacuum of communication that would last for hours or even days if I dared to prioritize myself over his immediate desires. If I bought a dress he didn't personally approve of, he wouldn't yell, he would just sigh deeply and tell me that he wished I cared more about what made him feel comfortable than my own vanity. He weaponized his own insecurities, making me the villain in a story he was writing in real time, where every no from my lips was proof that I didn't truly love him. He would say things like, "I guess I'm just not enough for you," or "If you really cared about our future, you wouldn't make things so difficult for us," which is the ultimate hallmark of a manipulator. They don't attack you directly, they make you attack yourself until you're so exhausted from the internal trial that you just give in to keep the peace. I found myself apologizing for things I hadn't even done, saying sorry for having an opinion, sorry for having a career, and sorry for simply existing as a person with my own heartbeat. The leverage was no longer just his sadness, it was my own sense of morality and my desire to be a good partner that he was using to keep me in line. He had turned my empathy into a weapon and was using it to carve out the parts of my personality he didn't like, leaving behind a hollow shell that knew only to say, "Yes, Liam." It was a psychological war of attrition where the goal was to make me believe that my only value was in how well I served his emotional needs. The high cost of this relational coercion was my sanity, as I started to doubt my own reality and wonder if I really was as selfish and cold-hearted as he made me out to be. Don't let a manipulator win. Subscribe now to join our community of survivors and find your voice again. The climax of this nightmare didn't come with a bang, but with a quiet, chilling realization that if I stayed, there would be nothing left of me to save. The final straw was when I was offered a promotion that required me to travel, a dream I had worked toward for years, but Liam reacted as if I had told him I was planning to set our house on fire. He went through the entire cycle in one night, first the tears, then the accusations of betrayal, and finally the ultimate leverage, the threat of self-harm if I chose my career over him. He sat on the edge of the bed and told me that his life would be over if I left for even a week, and for the first time, I didn't feel guilt. I felt a cold, hard sense of clarity. I realized that someone who truly loves you doesn't use their own life as a bargaining chip to keep you small, and they don't celebrate your success by making it about their own suffering. I had been living in a golden cage, and the bars were made of the very love he claimed to have for me, but it wasn't love at all. It was a sick, twisted form of ownership. Breaking the cycle was the hardest thing I've ever done, because a blackmailer doesn't let go easily. They double down on the drama, they call your family, they send 100 texts a day, and they try to pull you back into the storm. But I walked away anyway, realizing that his emotions were his responsibility, not mine, and that no amount of affection is worth the price of your own identity. I am finally breathing again, no longer looking over my shoulder to see if my happiness is causing someone else's calculated pain, because love should be a wind beneath your wings, not a weight around your neck. I unmasked the leverage, I broke the cage, and for the first time in years, I am finally truly free. You deserve a love that sets you free, not one that locks you down. Like and subscribe for more stories of strength and survival.